I'm ready for the sleep. It's at this level. Yes, if I make it totally flat, I can't sleep.
No.
The fluid down there. So they're gonna. It's starting tomorrow morning. Hey, promotion. No, it's what okay.
Which I
Yes. Okay. Why don't I do? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Good evening.
Everyone ready? Perfect. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for May 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Here.
Commissioner Hudak,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parnas,
Here.
Mayor Gans.
Here. You please stand for a moment of silence and our pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. If we could have approval of our city commission meeting minutes from April 4th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Parnas, seconded by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes, our cultural committee meeting minutes of December 19th, 2022, January 23rd, and February 27th of 2023. Our code compliance meeting minutes of March 7th, 2023, and the Hillsborough Inlet District meeting minutes of March 27th, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, seconded by Vice Mayor Parnas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, approval of our agenda for tonight, May 2nd, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, seconded by Vice Mayor Parnas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk?
For those attending via Zoom online, wishing to speak under public comment or on an item that's open for public input, please click Raise Hand at the bottom of the Participants tab, and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Gans. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand, and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Gans. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *6. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight, we have the good fortune of recognizing the City of Deerfield Beach's Teachers of the Year. Our first teacher is Mrs. Rebecca Laurent from Quiet Waters Elementary. Mrs. Laurent is an awesome teacher and is a true advocate for the students. She creates a connection with parents and helps their ESE children so that their kids can succeed to the best of their ability. Mrs. Laurent? Kelly Michelson from St. Ambrose Catholic School. Mrs. Michelson has been with St. Ambrose for 16 years now. She prepares her students for high school and is an incredible asset to the school, and there is no task that is too difficult to her. Ms. Michelson? And I'm going to probably butcher this name, so I will apologize from the very front. But Mrs. Slande Monestein, did I say it horribly? From Park Ridge Elementary, Mrs. Monestein is an amazing and dedicated teacher that goes over and beyond for her students. Her larger-than-life personality excites her students and motivates them to their fullest potential. Is she here tonight? No? Okay. Josh Smith from Deerfield Beach High School. Mr. Smith is dedicated to sharing his love for biology with all of his students. His entire classroom is filled with animals so students can learn about caring for living things. He's taken on leadership roles at the school and is highly respected by his peers, his parents, and his students. Mr. Smith, thank you. From Deerfield Beach Elementary, Amanda Soder. Ms. Soder is a phenomenal teacher who is always developing her craft to meet the needs of her students. Not only does she work with students, but she serves as a mentor and coach for new and veteran leaders and teachers. She knows almost every single student's name and establishes relationships with all of her parents. Congratulations, Ms. Soder. From Deerfield Park Elementary, Miss Patricia Amarante. Ms. Amarante was chosen by her peers as Teacher of the Year because of her patience, dedication to her students' education, and passion for her students' entire well-being, not just their education. Ms. Amarante? From Tedder Elementary School, we have Marquetta Ellis. Mrs. Ellis has been working with Broward County Public Schools for over 18 years now. Mrs. Ellis is a Tedder Bear who is a team player and advocate for her students. She's taken on 2 additional leadership roles and is the 2nd grade level team chairperson, SAC co-chair, and lead teacher for Broward TEA Food Forest Grant. Congratulations. Deerfield Beach Middle School, Mrs. Gracious Davenport. Mrs. Davenport embodies social and emotional learning to students. Her students love being around her because of her infectious smile and how she genuinely cares about each of them. Congratulations. From Bright Horizons, we have Casey O'Connell. Miss O'Connell is an amazing educator and an incredible person who enjoys working with students with significant cognitive disabilities. She works tirelessly as a mentor and a coach, and she truly brings out the best in everyone she encounters. Congratulations. And as part of the STEM department, Lisa St. Legier, who's willing to do whatever it takes to educate her students. She organized the STEM Club, which competes in competitions and will start a drone certification program and competitive robotics teams. Congratulations. Lastly, we'd like to thank our business community and our community partners and the nonprofit organizations for their support and contributions to the City of Deerfield Beach Teachers of the Year. JM Family, DMA Contracting of Deerfield Beach, Kiwanis Club of Deerfield Beach West, and Kiwanis Club of Deerfield Beach. Thank you for your support and encouragement.
Maybe do you want to, do you need closer enough? Over here. Perfect.
Snap it. What is this?
I know, I have. Domenic came over a couple of weeks ago. Nice, nice time.
We're gonna ask all of our teachers if we could to please go outside into the hallway.
I like the detention you're giving them.
Mr. City Attorney, can you start with our public comment, please?
Ready to go? Okay, we are now at the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. As a reminder, this is the time for public comment for items that are not on the agenda tonight. If you have public comment on an item that's on the agenda, the time to do that is after that title of that item is read into the record and the public comment period is open. No comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibility shall be permitted.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there anyone online? Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Daniel Shanetsky, 34 Keswick B, Deerfield Beach, Florida, 33442. I just want to give a shout out. We have something very, very special in Deerfield Beach that I just want to make people aware of. It's a 4-week program, 4-week workshop program. It's called SEED, and it stands for Skill Enhancement and Employee Development Initiative. And it's basically run and sponsored by the Broward Sheriff's Office, the Deerfield Beach District Community Outreach Resource and Education Team or CORE, and the Kiwanis Club of Deerfield Beach. All 3 of these organizations have come together to do something very, very special for our youth. Now, I know Commissioner Hudak and Commissioner Preston, one of their main platforms was talking about how we need to help the youth of Deerfield Beach. We need to give out to something to help them. So I just want to talk a little bit about the SEED program that I've been honored to be a part of. This is my second year. It's been involved for 3 years. Basically, what the SEED program is, it takes high school students from Deerfield Beach High School. These students have never done a resume. They've never really gone for employment. And basically, it's a workshop, teaches them how to interview, how to do a resume, how to interact professionally so they have an advantage. And this is called SEED because it plants a seed for their future. It teaches them how to market themselves, to give the best version of themselves. The first week, basically, it discusses job interviewing skills, workplace etiquette, resume building. The second week, we work on building resumes. When I did it last year, some of the students have never done a resume before. They had no idea what to even put on a resume. So we were able to show them how to market themselves. And on the third week, it's called Shopping Day. And again, it's sponsored by the Kiwanis Club of Deerfield Beach and CORE and Broward Sheriff. We take them out to a department store and we get them a business attire and we get them a casual attire. So they're able to look the best they can. And on the fourth week, it's graduation day, but basically we give them mock interviews as well as companies come and they give interviews to these students. So they really see what it's like to be in the workplace or what it's like to interview for a college. And again, this is something that will mold them as the years go by. And I think it's very important. And I wanted to give a shout out about this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shinetsky. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Willie Rosetta Graham Bracy. I live at 501 Northwest First Terrace in Deerfield Beach. And the reason why I'm up here again is petition, what do we need to do to get a petition to put that fence back up? And the park is open and everybody just walking in and out. And even with that little wooden fence, they're gonna do the same thing. And, you know, I looked at Mel Howard Park. His park, the people that lives in that neighborhood, their backyard is facing the park, not their front doors. In our neighborhood, the front doors is facing the park. You look out there, you see all kind of things going on. And I don't think it's right for the senior citizen to have to live the rest of their days like that. And keeping homeless people out of there, you cannot do it because they're gonna go walk across the fence and go there. And last night, I looked at the park ranger. She came, she locked that little piece of gate. And I looked out there again later. The bathrooms was open. People was in and out of the bathroom. So I don't know the purpose of redoing that park because I think it was fine the way it was. And we need that metal fence back up. And that water pond that they're gonna put back there, kids gonna be slipping out their houses, going back there while their parents not paying no attention and getting in that water. Somebody gonna be face down in there and it's gonna be too late to put the fence back up. And that's a senior neighborhood on that street. It's not no business neighborhood. Mel Howard Park is a business area. The gas station, the park, all that is back there. But in our neighborhood, it's just houses straight down that road. So you all need to think about that before they continue to put that park, continue to take that fence down. They already done took it down. And I see people using the bathrooms over there behind the trees. I don't like looking out my front door and looking at that. That's not nothing nice to look at. And the rain is gonna come right straight across to my house. Cause I'm mostly, the one that gonna get the blunt of it. And thank you, Mr. Gantz, because I said the other night that they were on the park. And I'm sure somebody went by there and see them on the park. and ran them off the park. I don't know who it was, but anyway. I think I probably do though. But anyway, at 4 o'clock in the morning, night before last, car park in there and people in there. So, you know, the only way you're gonna keep them out of there is bring that fence from that boat deck back down to meet that dip area, you know, right what I'm talking about. That's the only way you're gonna keep them out of there. And I thank you all, because I know it's gonna be a decision for you to make, because you done started, but you haven't got that far to not to stop it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public?
How you doing all? Name's Bob Polino. I live over here in the Cove
I
and
need your address, sir, for the record. please.
816 Southeast 16th Street.
Thank you.
I'm here to, my concern is the lifeguard shacks that are going up at the beach. You people are charging us taxpayers over $211,000 per station, which is outrageous. I think it's, you know, why would it be 211,000 when you could build that for 10,000? It's just outrageous. I think you're ripping the taxpayers off. And do you people, anybody on this panel have any knowledge of construction? Anybody here?
Sure,
You have knowledge?
sure.
Have you done construction, sir?
I haven't done construction, but I have knowledge of construction.
Okay, so obviously.
I also was here for the entire presentation to explain why the costs were what they were. Were you?
Yeah, no, I wasn't, but I'd like to have the breakdown of each lifeguard station that is being constructed up at the beach, penny to penny. And I've called the governor's office and I've filed a complaint with him. They're gonna review it. I'm calling the Attorney General's office and filing a complaint with them. I've called News 10 and they're gonna review it as well. And we're gonna publicize this throughout South Florida and Florida as well. Because I think it's outrageous how you people are ripping off the taxpayers of Deerfield Beach. And you're asking over $1.5 million to construct 5 lifeguard stations on Deerfield Beach, which with supplies and labor and all, you're probably looking at 10,000 per station. Where is the $1 million going? I want to know where the money trail is going on this project. Penny to penny. Can you supply that to me,
Do a
sir?
public records request. And if you go back, you can watch the meeting of the CRA in which we talked about it. You can look at the bids
Yeah.
that were submitted.
And we're
and you can
paying
see exactly what it
BSO
was.
$25 million a year. I think that's a little outrageous too,
Okay.
considering the service they offer. I'm not talking about the fire department. I'm talking about the sheriff's department. I had a stalking incident at my house. It took 911 communications over 26 minutes to answer my call. Okay, and then once they answered the call, it took BSO 45 minutes to give me a call on the
Give me one
phone,
more.
not to,
Would you like another minute, sir?
yeah, I'd like a few more.
You get 1 minute. Go right ahead.
But anyhow, getting back to the lifeguard station, I would like all the details, all the breakdown on each lifeguard station that's being constructed here in Deerfield Beach. And like I said, I've notified the governor on it. I'm calling the attorney generals tomorrow. And then News 10 is going to be getting in contact with you people. And probably the other news stations as well. Because you're ripping off us hard-earned taxpayers here in Deerfield Beach.
Okay.
And it's a white-collared crime, and I hope things work out for us taxpayers.
Okay. I have a question for you. So you've done no research on this other than just hearsay, and you have no idea what that costing title includes.
Well, come on, sir. I've
No, I asked you a question.
built
You asked me a
houses up in
question.
New Hampshire beautiful homes
That's
for under
wonderful.
200,000.
I'm sure that was a
These
wonderful
stations
house.
don't have cement slabs. They don't have a septic. They don't have a well. They're
Sir,
just,
sir,
stick
simple
built.
question. Have you done any research to find out? I'll get you the public records. You can look at it. None of this is a
okay.
surprise.
Email me the public
No,
records.
you submit a request and we'll get it over to you. I don't know what your email is, so let us know and we'll get the information to you.
Okay, and
And
who
then you can
should
go
I
back and
direct
review the
that
meeting.
to? You, sir?
Pardon?
Should I direct
You
that?
direct
on-
it to me or anyone else you'd like to.
Okay,
Yeah, get it over to me. We'll get the information to you.
all right. The only thing I can say about this project, it's a white collared crime.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? You might want to stick around. You can learn some stuff about some of the other things that are going on in the city.
Well, that's my concern.
That's it? Okay,
Is a crime, sir.
I have no
And you'll
doubt.
be Listening to the governor on this.
I look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Polino. You can keep walking. Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? Yeah. Anyone else? I'll close it to the public. Thank you.
Okay, we are now at consent board appointments. We have items 2 and 3 are currently on consent board appointment.
Actually, if I could have a point of privilege, I'd like to acknowledge two people that are here tonight. We have a commissioner from Parkland and also our president of our Broward League of Cities, Mr. Bob Marison. See you, sir. We have the mayor of Cooper City, Mr. Greg Ross. Good to see you. Thank you, Mayor.
So consent board appointments, items 2 and 3 are currently on consent.
Are there any pulls from the commission on these items? Is there anyone from the public that care to comment on these items by a show of hands? Anyone online? I'm going to close it to the public. Commission,
Motion to approve. Second.
is that for both of them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Hudak, seconded by Vice Mayor Parnas. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parnas,
Yes.
Mayor Gans.
Yes.
Okay, we are now on consent agreement and expenditure requests. Items 4 through 7 are currently on consent. I believe the city manager has a poll of one of those items.
Thank you, Mayor, City Commission. I'd like to request that the City Commission pull item number 7. There has been some recent developments related to this item that we'd like to discuss with you before you take a vote.
I'm sorry, which items again?
7.
Seven?
That's just number 7.
Commissioner, are there any other polls on 4, 5, or 6?
No.
No. Is there anyone online? Show of hands, does anyone care to comment on item 4, 5, or 6? Not seeing any. I'm gonna close
Motion
it
to
the public.
approve.
Motion from Vice Mayor Parnas,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hudak. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parnas,
Yes.
Mayor Gans.
Yes.
Item number 7 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the interlocal agreement among the city, Broward County, and Broward municipalities for the establishment of the Solid Waste Disposal and Recyclable Materials Processing Authority of Broward County, providing for execution and an effective date. As the manager mentioned, we do have an update on this item. So as you all recall, the Solid Waste Working Group has been meeting for quite some time to discuss the potential for, a vehicle for countywide solid waste and recycling. And an interlocal agreement has been negotiated for many months. The manager and I went to a meeting maybe 3 weeks ago in Sunrise where all of the cities were present. County representatives were present. Solid Waste Working Group was present to go over what we believe to be the final proposed ILA and make sure that any additional questions that may have been raised were addressed. There was one sort of last minute request that was addressed at that meeting. Since that time, this ILA has been approved by some cities. You have it on your agenda tonight. We got word today, and in fact, I got an email this afternoon, I think at 2:15, that when it went to the county, at the county commission today, they made some changes to the item today. Some of those changes appear to be non-substantive, but there are some substantive changes. that the solid waste working group has not approved. So at this time, the city manager and myself are recommending that we approve the solid waste working group version. Additionally, the resolution that's before you gives the ability for the manager to approve non-substantive changes. So we can approve those non-substantive changes. And if it turns out that the solid waste working group, makes a recommendation the other way on some of these substantive changes, we could always come back to you. It is my understanding that the solid waste working group has a meeting on Monday to discuss these recent developments. So the manager and I just wanted to bring that to your attention and point it out to you before you vote on this item. Do you have anything further, Mr. Manager?
Vice Mayor Parnas.
Yes. I was on the Broward Planning Council for 8 to 10 years. And there's 18 of us on that council. I have just since resigned due to health reasons. And I've represented Deerfield Beach. Adding to a dump is kicking the can down the road. A lot of you don't know that our garbage in Deerfield Beach doesn't go to the dump here. It's trucked to Orlando. So dealing with dumps is just going to keep getting more and more expensive. It's kicking the can, not solving the problem. So we've joined with all the other cities in Broward County to find a solution. Even if it's building our own plant that turns garbage into electricity to lower your FP&L costs. We have to have a solution, not just keep making new mountains. We're out of land for new mountains. And as I said, our garbage doesn't even go here. It goes all the way up to near Orlando. What's the future of keeping that same attitude? Well, we'll solve it another day. Needs to be solved now. And I support this group 100% because it's important that we have a solution that we can live with and afford.
Thank you, Commissioner Parnas. Excuse me, Vice Mayor Parnas. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm been following this issue very closely, and as the city attorney has mentioned, this is an issue that has been pending for quite some time. And the Solid Waste Working Group has done an excellent job, and they have met countless hours. I mean, their meetings are hours at a time, and I can't count the number of hours that they have put in. So to get to this point in time, I'd like to hear Mr. Ross, the mayor from Cooper City. I don't want to put him on the spot, but if he's willing to speak, I'd like to hear what changes transpired. Transpired today. He's the chairman of the Solid Waste Working Group. So I'd like to hear what happened today. I'm all for recommending approval of the version that we have seen before, but I'd like to know what, transpired, and are these, kind of substantive changes that are make or break, going forward, because his group has put in a ton of time on this. And if you ever wanted someone who's an expert in garbage, that is the mayor of Cooper City.
Thank you. It's nice to be an expert in something. Tonight, I should say today, we had a meeting, and we being the county commission had a meeting discussing the ILA. They did have 5 different modifications. I have personally not read any of the modifications. I have talked to people about them. Most of them were technical in nature. One might cause some concern, but until I go through it, I can't honestly tell you what my thoughts are on it. So I think you should follow the advice of your attorney, follow through with the adoption, if you will, of the ILA as it was drafted. And if there are the non-substantive changes, non-policy changes, city manager can always take care of it. If he deems it appropriate, I'm sure he'll bring back any of the policy changes that need to be made. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. having been in briefed by the city manager and the city attorney before the meeting on what the changes were, I will say this. It's disappointing that as we go through this process, and we do it with a great deal of faith, that we're all operating with good, under good faith and trying to make sure that we're coming up with the best plan for a countywide solution. It's disappointing that you have certain county commissioners that come in at the last minute to make some changes after everything had been agreed to. So I'm fully supportive of agreeing to what this board or with the group came up with, and not just what the county commission changes are. And I encourage those county commissioners to come around on this. It seems to be the ones that have spent too much time in Tallahassee that like to strip away the city's rights and seem to focus on overlording rather than being a collective cooperative group on this. So I hope they come around and look at this a little bit differently. This is a very big, this has very big impacts for the city of Deerfield Beach and our other surrounding communities, Coconut Creek, Margate, Pompano Beach, all of us. So, and it's an issue for us countywide. So I hope we can, bring some sanity back to this a little bit before we start making these last minute changes like that. So I am supportive of going along with what the recommendation by the city attorney and the city manager is. Is there anyone from the public that care to comment on this item? I'm going to close it to the public.
Motion to approve the
Second.
recommendation of the city attorney, city manager.
So just, our recommendation is just to approve it as is, currently on the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Preston, seconded by Vice Mayor Parnas. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parnas.
Yes.
Mayor Gans.
Yes.
Item number 8 is an ordinance of the City Commission, of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, adopting an amendment to the city budget for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2023, approving supplemental appropriations and budget transfers to various city funds and reducing appropriations to the Insurance Services Fund by $487,681 as set forth in the attached Exhibit A, approving amendments to the employment, position titles, and grade system, and position pay ranges as set forth in the attached Exhibits B and C, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading.
Good evening again, Mayor, Commissioners. This evening, we're going to go through our mid-year budget amendment. Again, this is something that we started a few years ago. We do a mid-year budget adjustment. We do an end-of-year budget adjustment, and this is a way for us to maintain flexibility, be nimble, and also to be in compliance with the auditor and OIG's recommendations in terms of ensuring that we are making adjustments to the budget as we move throughout the year, recognizing that, what we do back in June, July, August of any one year may change, 6-7 months down the road and things come up and those sorts of things. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about some of those things that have come up. I'm going to allow Ms. Tinsley to start the presentation with the first 2 items that are we're effectuating in this budget amendment, and then I'll go ahead and talk about the next 2. So we can go ahead and go to the first slide. The first 2 things that we're going to talk about are grants, donations that we've received, and some other adjustments, as well as carry forwards from FY22. And then I'll go ahead and talk about the transfer from the general fund to the solid waste fund and the budget amendment to implement the paying class study. So not further ado, I'll turn it over to Ms. Tinsley.
Good evening. So I get the easy parts. So the initial, some of the adjustments relates to some great work. I want to give kudos to Jonathan Salas for his work on acquiring and increasing our grants that's coming in. So we're recognizing the increase in grant funding. There's a number of grants, the ADI, the CDBG, things like that. The amounts have come in more than what was initially budgeted for when developing the FY23 budget. So we're recognizing that, as well as a CASA donation related to the a active aging center. In addition, we are recognizing there's an issue with the injection well. We need injection well rehabilitation related to the utilities fund. And so that is just being funded directly from the utilities fund balance. And then other professional and consulting needs are within the general fund and in the stormwater funds. And some of that relates to also capital projects, but those are professional services that are in the operating fund itself. Okay, next slide, please. All right, and then the next slide, the carry forward. So it's approximately about $4 million net. So 2.7 million of it is from projects that began in FY 2022. They were either appropriated, obligated, or in 2022 and are being continued in 2023. And so those related appropriations and authorizations need to be rolled forward into this fiscal year. And then also there are additional capital enterprise and special revenue funds, again, related to capital projects, such as there's some funding from CDBG, the park impact fees, and the target area trust fund. So those are all outlined in Exhibit A, all of where those funding sources are coming from to fund additional projects. And a lot of those projects relate to parks improvements as they go along. So we really, as part of FY 22, really tried to dig deep and in different areas and turned over rocks in one fund and went to another fund and turned over some more rocks in order to find the funding that we needed in order to get these projects and initiatives to move forward. And so with that, I think I turn it back over to Dave.
Thank you, Ms. Tinsley. Let's see if you, yeah, okay, so this, the next part of the budget amendment is in line with the funding strategy that was approved by the City Commission back in December as it relates to the solid waste fund. Staff went back and as a measure to reduce the rate increase on the solid waste charges, looked at some items that had been received within the general fund that could be attributed to the general fund. And this, as we said, would come back through a budget amendment mid-year to effectuate that fund balance transfer from the general fund to the solid waste fund. So this is effectuating that. So that is a good step to reduce the negative fund balance that we have in that fund. And again, it's in line with the annual auditor's observation and the auditor general operational audit finding recommendation. Next slide, please. The other part of the paying class study, honestly, which is probably one of the more smaller fiscal impacts as it relates to the budget impact, but a big impact for the city, I think, and also moving forward in terms of its effectiveness, is the paying class study. So what was the paying class study? If you remember, we had budgeted for a paying class study in FY 22. We completed that study sometime around December, and I want to go through the study activity itself and explain why we did it, what the results were, before we really just talk about the financials of the situation as it relates to the budget amendment. The first thing it did is it provided a foundation for us to look at our classification and compensation system, our pay plan. It looked at a current compensation levels for other public sector employees and counterparts in the private sector for some of our positions which translate to the private sector. It also looked at our local market, and the purpose of it was to address our current challenges. And what are our current challenges as it relates to our personnel services? First is salary compression, okay? Salary compression occurs over a long period of time when you run into current labor market conditions like you see today. And I'll give you just one example of what that could be. You may have a long-term employee, perhaps they've been here, 13, 14 years. You hired them at a certain rate. They have been given COLA increases or merit increases throughout those, years that they've been with the city. You get to today's current market, and to bring in a new person into that same position, so a counterpart of that individual, you've got to hire them at a level at or higher than your 13 or 14-year employee. And what that causes is an inequity, and it's called salary compression. It is also a situation in which subordinates, when they're being hired in, have the same effect with their superiors, who may have been here for a very long time and receive smaller raises as they have been promoted throughout the years. But that's what salary compression is. Competition in the talent pool. We all know and seen news articles about the labor market and how strained it is. People, you hear the stories about people not wanting to work anymore, or not wanting to work in an office environment anymore, and not wanting to do the tough jobs that the men and women of the city of Deerfield Beach do as it relates to our maintenance folks, solid waste folks, and those types of jobs, jumping in manholes, that sort of thing. We have a high volume of unfilled vacancies. I asked our assistant director of HR today, what's our current vacancy rate? And our current vacancy rate is 16%. That's extremely high. That's 79 positions out of 493. That affects our level of service that we can provide to our residents and the citizens and the businesses of Deerfield Beach. Market inequity for competitive talent. So if I'm in the labor market and I'm looking for a job, and I'm looking across, I want a municipal job, how do our salaries look compared to those around us? Okay. And in fact, we're behind the market. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. And then obviously, as I mentioned, a significant reduction in qualified applicant pool for various reasons. So the approach overview was to first conduct a review of all city job titles and gather the salary and compensation data from similar or competitive organizations. And I'll show you the municipal organizations which we compared ourselves to, and I'll tell you why. We looked at developing a revised classification plan. We'll go into that a little bit, and provide options for reasonable and cost-effective ways to transition to this new plan. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Deerfield Beach and Management Advisory Group International, or MAG. MAG was our consultant on this project, who has conducted hundreds of these throughout the country. Our particular consultant has done these many, many times, and here locally in the past, recently as well. But they conducted a comprehensive analysis of all of the city's current compensation and classification system and salary levels for all 493 positions that the city has, which equates to 216 job classifications. What is the difference in the numbers? As an example, we don't have one lifeguard, we have many lifeguards. So that's one classification, and that equates to more positions. What was the process that unfolded through this study? First, there were some internal meetings so that the consultant could understand the challenges that we are having. Those meetings took place with the Human Resources Department, me. They also reviewed our job descriptions, and they did job analysis looking at the employee job profile questionnaires in the supervisor review. I want to go into a little bit more detail about that one specifically. Each and every employee had the opportunity to complete a job analysis survey. That data and that effort took sometimes hours for each employee to complete. That was that, along with the market analysis and some other complex rubrics of analytics that they use in a software system that they use, really was the data entry to give us the results. But those questionnaires were important, and the employees did a really good job, took it very seriously to ensure that, to the best of their ability, they provided information to really outline what they did on a daily basis, the level of effort, the skill set involved, any safety hazard related information that they're involved with in their job, what they do in terms of the decision-making process, how big of a decision they make. All of this is part of looking at how much a particular position should be compensated. So through that, there was also an external equity look, right? So we looked at the market and how other positions are being advertised around us. The MAG proposed a salary schedule. They also did the salary adjustment calculations. They looked at the organizational cost, and then they looked at implementation options for us and presented those to the city. Next slide, please. When they looked at us, they looked at cities that were either competing for our employees, geographically situated around us. They also looked at cities that provided similar services to us or that are currently attractive to prospective employees. And off to the right, you can see the cities that they compared us to. Next slide, please. So when the survey information came back, benchmark results is what they're called, they found that on average, the city's paying classification plan is negatively behind the market by the following. At the minimum range of a salary across all salaries, the average was about 7.4% behind the market, 6% at the median range, and 5.1% at the maximum range of salaries. Now, each position or job classification differed. Some were further behind than others, but on average, this is where we were. Next slide, please. The implementation report. The report recommended a new pay structure that considers the job and the relationship to the market, the plan built to overcome our current deficits and deficiencies that we discussed earlier, and place the city in a more competitive position to attract and retain talent. The new pay structure provided for ranges that were 60% difference between the minimum and the maximum, with 5% between each grade. The implementation considerations looked at a phase approach in this current year, as well as next year. And the recommendations through the final analysis in the report was a across-the-board market adjustment that averaged at 6%, and we went over that slide, and I think you can see the nexus between that. Bringing employees at least up to the minimum of their new recommended pay grade in instances where their current salary would be below the new recommended salary range of that particular position. Also recommended equity or compression adjustments. I talked about what equity and compression adjustments are. So there are positions where they have analyzed and made recommendations for equity adjustments, and that this be used as a labor negotiation tool. So bringing us to how this relates to the budget amendment. To implement this plan, we needed to ensure that we had the dollars in the current budget in order to make this happen. I want to thank Ms. Tinsley and her team for a detailed analysis of our current revenues and expenditures to identify funding sources that exist today that would fund the implementation of phase 1 of the pay and class study for FY23. The approach that we are recommending is to do half of the across the board pay and classification adjustment for this fiscal year, with the remaining 3% for FY24. The net impact of implementing that is approximately 720,000 and also includes the minimum adjustments, the equity adjustments, and the executive compensation package, which I'll go into a little bit more detail here in a minute. The proposed funding comes from a reduction in our insurance services allocation per the fund and increased vacancy credit savings. Vacancy credit, obviously at a 16% vacancy credit, vacancy rate, we have the bandwidth to implement the paying class plan. One of the other outcomes from the paying class study and recommendation was many of our competitors provide a series of benefits to executive level staff, which we reviewed with the consultant. These are things like additional time off, cell phone allowances, contributions to retirement health benefits, these types of things. It was important for me to ensure that this benefit package was consistent with the offering that would be provided to other employees in terms of the implementation strategy of this paying classification plan. We have developed a package that is consistent with that. And to recognize that we'd be implementing this at this point in time, we are making the recommendation that the employees who would receive that executive package would not receive the across the board increase, but rather this non-compounding benefit. And I want to emphasize that non-compounding benefit, whereas the across the board would compound year over time, this executive package does not. Next slide, please. Within your backup, we want to point out exactly what is in there. Exhibit B has basically two things in it. It's the position title adjustments and the new pay grade system. Exhibit C shows the amendment of the pay ranges, so you can do some comparative analysis. And again, the pay adjustments would occur over a 2 fiscal year period beginning in FY23. That's Exhibit A. And employees in the new pay, that's for employees in the new pay grade up to and including 123. 123 is the new grading system. And then the benefits package for those employees in the pay ranges of 124 and higher. And once again, the funding is coming from the savings within our insurance services fund based off our experience, a lower non-uniform pension contribution that we are realizing this year, and increased vacancy credits. Happy to address any questions that the commission may have.
I'll start with, I'll ask a question, and this will probably, and it's been covered, but it might be hidden in there, but I'm going to ask it on behalf of all the residents. Is this going to result in an increase in taxes for the residents?
No, it will not. As I mentioned, for FY23, we have the existing bandwidth within the current budget to absorb this implementation plan.
So the $720,000 net is what the hit is, and we have enough to be able to absorb that.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. And you listed several reasons why, but I want to at least point blank ask the question, as residents will say that, because I'm sure that'll be the first question they will want to know. Okay. My colleagues know this because they work behind the scenes during union negotiations, and some of you have been doing it for a long time and know that I am not a real big fan of giving out increases, and I feel that the public sector is, in many ways, I have felt in the past, grossly overpaid, in my opinion. Reality is, though, and I've been here long enough to see sometimes the errors of my ways, is that I realize when you look at what our retention is, you look at the vacancies that we have, the reality is the public sector and the private sector are two different animals. And there are some specific needs that we have that aren't necessarily easy to fill by just going out into the private sector. We are not competitive right now, and that is hurting us as a city. And it's hurting us in the short term, and it's definitely going to hurt us in the long term. So while I have historically been very much against this sort of thing, I think this is the right thing for the city of Deerfield Beach to do. I think we need to make sure we have the right people in place. You know, these jobs aren't easy. There are specific. Some of the things that happen in the public sector are, like I said, are very different than private sector. Add in the extra layer that everything that goes on, salaries, everything is all up for public consumption. And as many of you know, we have people that like to stand up here and take shots or sit online in their little quiet soapboxes of cowardice and take shots at city employees for what they get paid. And it's not necessarily the right thing. They're entitled to their opinion, and I've been entitled to mine, but my opinion has changed. I think this is the right thing to do. I will say this, during last year's budget workshops, I talked about one particular segment of the city, one department in particular, that we talked about there being a national shortage of ocean rescue, lifeguards in that industry. And we're a coastal town. Our biggest thing is our beach. It's extremely important. We see the competition that's out there. We see the fact that this is an industry that you not only have to have a certain skill set in life safety, but you also have to have the physical conditioning to be able to perform the job. Those are two very high thresholds to meet when you're looking for talent. And everybody's looking for that talent. We're in Florida. It's a coastal, all these coastal communities, we're all vying for that talent. And if we don't, and I asked for it then, and I'm going to ask for it now, I know what is being proposed as being a grade 108. I'd like to see us go to a grade 109 for ocean rescue. That makes us competitive. That puts us ahead of a lot of the other areas, because right now, if you look at what is even being proposed, the minimums might get people in the door, but the maximums are so low that they're going to leave to go to the other cities. And we need to get ahead of this, because I don't want to be here a year from now and us having a major shortage, because it's not something you're going to be able to fill easily. It is not. And if we're not ahead of the game, we're going to be in some big trouble. So that is my one request on this. I support it. I support our staff. And I think this is something we need to do to keep the city of Deerfield Beach moving forward and to keep us competitive. Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, this is a very important item. And we must encourage the residents to understand this and engage in this, because number one, there is the reality of job market value. Whatever that job is, there is a value for that job. Now, it may not be the same in every city. And the part of the presentation was a market review where other cities were surveyed. Could you go back to that? Okay, when you look at all of these cities, so we got 9 other cities for which was surveyed. And here's the problem: if we don't address this, we become a training ground for any one of those cities. And having an employee that will come to the city of Deerfield Beach, go through a process of being trained, and then going to any one of those 9 cities and providing a job skill. And for whatever the difference is in money, we have to realize that you pay more money when you keep training people. When you keep training people, you're actually paying more. It's not just the difference in pay. What did it cost you in time, man hours, to train that person, to get them to a point where they're able to do their job? So if we ignore that, then the cost factor actually goes up, which I don't think that it's accounted for in this job study. The other thing is that I didn't see any word that talked about the morale of employees. They know when they're not being properly compensated. They understand what the job market is all about, and like anybody else, everybody wants to do the best that they can for their family. And if we don't pay attention to that, the poor morale equals poor services delivered. So what do we get? Even if we're on that lower end, you may not be paying the money. What are we getting for it? We're getting nothing for it. That's the bottom line. So this is important to not only just do this pay and class study, but it's incumbent upon us to do something about it so that we're able to retain the employees that we have, treat them fairly. It's not like we're giving them anything. It's not like Christmas time. We're just treating them fairly. And in treating them fairly, guess what? We get that extra added bonus again that was not up there, and that is higher, better services delivered and better morale. So as we look at this, we need to be able to act and do the right thing so that the citizen, ultimately, the residents of Deerfield Beach is the one that's really going to really be the recipient of good service. So we have to think of our residents in this and not just from an administrative level. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go with Commissioner Hudak and Commissioner Drosky and then Vice Mayor Parnas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was a long discussion that we had with regards to this study. And it is a cost of doing business, whether you're in the private sector like I am during the day, where I receive resignations on a daily basis, where individuals are receiving an exorbitant increase and the abilities to work remotely, or whether I'm here at night and we have the same challenge as Commissioner Preston just said. We don't want to become a training ground because you lose that institutional knowledge when somebody leaves who's been here for 4 or 5 years. It's vitally important. A lot of times when we have these special events, we'll go up and we'll speak. And one of the things we'll do is we will, acknowledge the great job of all of our employees. Whether it's the Parks and Recreation individuals, and the individuals who put on various events, or the individuals who clean up after these events. And it's tremendous to be able to sing their praises. But at the end of the day, individuals work, because they like their supervisor, they are proud of their city or their employer, and they work to pay their bills. And it's great that we announce this, but if somebody comes to them offering them, enough money that's going to allow them to have a lifestyle change, whether it's $5, $6, $7 an hour increase, whether it's $40,000, $50,000 a year, they have to make some tough decisions. The employees that we have here in Deerfield Beach truly, truly care about our city. When you actually sit down and you talk with them, whether you see them on the street, whether you see them in the office, and they're the asset that we depend on mostly in this. And we have the ability to, increase their salaries and their wages without increasing taxes. And if we have that ability to do that, it is our job as their employers to take advantage of that, because they're giving their best to us. And now we need to reciprocate that and show them that we appreciate their hard work. And I fully support this. I see this every day in my day job, and all of us see it every day, whether it's going to the grocery store and it's $4 for a dozen eggs, or $5.35 for Thomas's English muffins. So it used to be $2. Prices are going up. Those of you that are on a fixed income, I can understand your frustration and your challenges. Those of us who are still working, even if we're making, our 2 or 3% increase from last year, we're even further behind the dollar when you're talking about inflation of 8 and 9%. This is the cost of doing business. We used to say, okay, well, the public sector is different from the private sector. In the public sector, you've got, job security, and you've got a pension, and you've got a bunch of holidays off and great benefits. And in the public sector, you make more money. But we're also competing against other cities who offer the same or even better benefits than we do here in Deerfield Beach. And we all have pride in our city. We all have pride in our employees, and we want to show that pride and we want to show that appreciation. And we have the ability to do that. And that's why I'm supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I too ultimately will support item number 8. I don't get there very easy, though. It's not an easy decision for me at all. We're focused on, the pay and class study portion. This item number 8 has some budget transfers in here as well. So it's a multifaceted item, but we're all kind of laser focused on the pay and class study right now, which is going to monopolize the discussion as it should be. Commissioners Hudak and Preston submitted, that Deerfield Beach, could be a training ground. I submit we already are a training ground. You all get the same HR reports that I do. And I would say probably in the last 2 years, the number of employees that have left the city probably are more than my first 4 years combined. There's just been an outflow of talent in the city of Deerfield Beach. And one of the factors that's going to push me in favor of this is that the study was done by a third party this is their business. This is their bailiwick to evaluate cities and to evaluate their salary structures. This wasn't the city that did this. This wasn't someone in our own HR department that did this. This was an outside company that took a look at our organization to determine that we were 6%, at least that's the recommendation. We're going with 6% below. And we need to make up for that difference. Where it becomes difficult for me is that this is because the people that are paying those salaries, the taxpayers, nobody's talked about that. No one's factored that into the equation so far. So we have, it's always been a very delicate balance for me, is the employees versus the taxpayers, because the employees want more and the taxpayers want to pay less. It's just a dynamic that's been in place since the beginning of time, and it's going to continue to be. So who's representing the taxpayers? I mean, we as elected officials, we should be representing the taxpayers. Those are the ones that elected us. Those are the representatives we are their representatives to advocate on their behalf. What is pushing the needle for me is to represent the taxpayers and to give them the best service that they can have in the city of Deerfield Beach, and to make their city and their home better is to have our employees do the best job that we can. And to do that, we have to pay them accordingly. You saw the other cities that are ahead of us, and I submit that those cities are already taking talent from us, and we have to be competitive. And so it's very difficult to, it's a very razor thin line, for me, but the factors that I'm talking about, I'm trying to explain my logic to everybody as to why I'm ultimately going to become in favor of it. The mayor asked at the beginning, is this going to have an impact on this year's budget? And the city manager said, no, it's cost neutral. I'm going to take that one step further and ask, because there's going to be the additional increase next year. And the city manager, I have talked this behind the scenes, and I'm hoping the answer tonight is the answer that we had before, is what impact is this going to have on next year's budget, going forward? Can we expect increases in the budget because you're gonna have, costs there? And I've been told, and you can tell me that there's not going to be, because I've said, I'm not going to support a millage increase, going next year for all of these increases. I'm going to toe the line. I've been saying this for years. Anyone that's been watching these meetings, it's not going to be a surprise for me to hear me say this tonight, because I've been saying this for 6 years now. So city manager says, how is this going to impact the budget process for next year?
Commissioner, in terms of how it will affect the budget process that we're in right now, we're going to ensure that we balance our revenues and our expenditures without an impact to the millage rate for fiscal year FY24.
I'm going to hold you to that, and that's why I'm going to be in favor of this at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Parnas.
To me, it's not a very difficult decision for the following reason. One, do we want to give the best service we can to our citizens? Two, how do we achieve that? do we have to be competitive with 9 or 10 others to keep talent? The answer is yes. We didn't create the competitive market, it exists. So either we jump in and compete, or we will forever have second class instead of first class. We want first class talent, we have to pay for it because others are willing to pay for it. Not necessarily because we say, "Well, give them what they want." No, we're in a competitive market. And giving good service to our citizens is our number one job. This is why I support this. We can't afford to stay behind the 8 ball forever. Because when it comes to talent, they're going to say Deerfield, they're on the bottom of the list. We don't want to be on the bottom of the list. I'd rather be on the top of the list where people are dying to work for us. Because we treat our employees well, we give them a competitive salary, good benefits, and a nice place to work in a great city. And because we're in a competitive market, we have to compete, whether we like it or not. It's either compete or go down the tube. I won't let the city go down the tube. I will approve this.
Commissioner Preston. again.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Drosky, you said that we are to be the advocates for the residents when it comes to making fiscal decisions like this. I would assert that when we are making these kinds of decisions, making sure that we are leveling the playing field, that we are advocating on behalf of the residents. We're making it actually in the long run cheaper for them as opposed to saying, no, just keep going, just keep going. We are a revolving door. In the end, that is going to cost the taxpayer a lot more than if we're able to say to them, it's important that we look at this issue and here's where we are. Here's the facts. When you have a study like this, the public cannot deny and say, well, you know, we're 6% behind. If they say to a particular commissioner, we want you to advocate that doesn't matter, then you have to just make that decision whether you would say, you know what, my constituents don't care. But we are to think in whole about our city. If we just keep letting employees go, at some point, we are not even a revolving door. The quality that we get coming in is going to be questionable at some point. So it's incumbent upon us to take a fiscally conservative position on behalf of the residents by making sound decisions and doing what's best, even at times when it may not seem that way to them. But if we don't do it, because we can still make the choice and say, no, Mr. City Manager, we're not going to pay the employees nothing. We still have that. We still can do that. But it wouldn't be the fiscally right thing to do. And nor would it be logical for us to do that because we sit in a position to make good decisions on behalf of our residents. And sometimes, like now, they've done this study, they shared the information with us, that decision is in front of us. We either embrace that and do the very best we can, or we say, you know what? No, we're still gonna go this way, another way, realizing that employees are not going to stay in Deerfield Beach. They're going to come here, they're going to stay for 1 or 2 years, and they'll go. Now, what did it cost me for that? And then the next employee do it. So I believe you're right. We need to be an advocate for our residents. But when we look at situations like this and we do it on behalf of our residents, we're actually doing a good thing.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to open it to the public. Is there anyone from the public that care to comment on this item? Anyone online? We can close it to the public then.
Motion to approve.
I'm going to ask for consideration. Can we make a motion to approve that with a request of going from the grade from 108 to 109? Roshan Rescue.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, the recommendation I would have is if we just do it for the lifeguard position, you're going to create
It's top to bottom.
Okay.
I'm talking the whole department. That's what I'm looking at.
one up for each.
Ocean Rescue.
Okay, thank you.
Motion approved.
We have a second. We have a motion from Vice Mayor Parnas, second by Commissioner Hudak. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hudak,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parnas,
Yes.
Mayor Gans.
Yes.
We are now at comments by administration and legal. No comments from me tonight.
No comments from me as well. Thank you.
We are now at city commission business. Item number 9 is an ordinance of the city commission of the city of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending chapter 2 administration, article 2 boards, committees, commissions, division 11, youth council of the city's code of ordinances to revise the youth council composition and qualifications for membership, providing for conflicts, severability, codification, effective date. This is first reading.
City manager.
Well, this item was sponsored by Commissioner Preston. So Commissioner Preston, I'm happy to give an overview of what this item is unless you would like to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so at a previous meeting, Commissioner Preston discussed his desire to see our youth, particularly high school teenagers, get more involved in civic duty, understanding the political process. So with that, we went back and we looked, and lo and behold, we actually have the foundation for that through the youth council. The youth council ordinance was amended during COVID, so obviously we weren't able to bring that board or that committee to fruition. And through discussions with him, we've made some recommendations on adjustments to that board. There are 2 adjustments to the ordinance that we have today currently that we are making a recommendation for. One would be the number of participants or council members going from 11 to 8. Why 8? We have 4 districts, 2 per district would be is the current recommendation. And 2, recognizing that not all Deerfield Beach residents go to school in Deerfield, and not all Deerfield Beach high school students live in Deerfield. We're making a recommendation to make the change to include both of those categories. Other than that, the ordinance remains unchanged. We have been in discussions with the Deerfield Beach High School. Myself and Commissioner Preston met with them. They are willing to help us to, through an election process, make recommendations of council members for the city commission to consider. And hopefully we can have this council ready to move at the beginning of this school year next year. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Drosky.
I turned my light on to kind of get the temperature of my colleagues while we can have this discussion in the sunshine. I don't have any issue with it. It's just that the 8 is 2 per district and doesn't include the mayor. So I don't know, in the past, we've on the African American Heritage Board, we've included the mayor. So I don't know if it was intentional to not include the mayor or if we should be including the mayor. So I wanted to have that discussion tonight with my colleagues to see if anyone had a heavy opinion on that one way or the other. But I would be inclined to make it 10 to give the mayor 2 appointments as well, as opposed to just the 2 appointments from the 4 districts.
If there's a motion, I'll second it.
It's discussion. I want to hear what everyone has to think. I mean, that's the first thing that jumped out at me while I was reviewing this.
Commissioner Preston.
We had the number was obviously higher. We brought it down because we thought it would be more manageable. Dealing, if we had less kids, that it would be a bit more effective. However, I don't have a problem with the mayor. I mean, going to 10. I don't have a problem with that.
Look, I don't like to be excluded on anything, so I appreciate that, your concern, obviously. But I will say this, I don't want to put this on staff where this group becomes too big, that it becomes unwieldy. So, maybe, and I'll get greedy here, maybe I appoint the alternates and you guys appoint the primary members. I don't know if there are alternates. Is it just the straight up 8? Is that what we have? Okay. Look, I don't want to add, I don't want this to become too cumbersome because then it becomes ineffective. So, and it becomes too much work for staff. So I'm willing to forego having appointees on there. And I trust that the 4 of you will do a good job of putting the right people on there. Unless staff says no, 10 is perfectly fine.
9's a good number.
Give me 1. Yeah.
Give you 1. At least, I think it's important that we're all involved. I think it's important that we're all involved.
I agree.
We can certainly manage that, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you. Any other extra tasks you want to assign me, Commissioner Drosky?
No, I'm just waiting for the public hearing, then I'll make a motion.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'd like to open it up to the public, anyone from the public here to comment on this item. I'm going to close it to the public since there's no one online. Commissioner Preston?
I just want to let everyone know that I want to thank staff for helping with this. We met with the high school, we met with Mr. Marlowe, and everybody from the high school really joined in on this, and this is going to be something that's going to be very productive for our youth. And again, I thank staff for helping with this. And when we get a chance to see how this functions, I think that we're all going to be very, very proud of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Preston, for spearheading this and getting this back started. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Oh, I'm sorry, to the
You did.
public. Oh, we did, we closed it. Okay.
Second. Was it
Wait,
as is with 8 or 10?
9.
So it's motion to approve with the amendment to go to 9 members, correct, Commissioner? And the second?
Second.
Okay. We have, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
We are now at comments by Mayor and Commission.
And we'll start with, District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's 2 things I wanted to discuss really quick. So over the weekend, I met with a resident with regards to the lifeguard towers. And of course, we had gentlemen here that I spoke with earlier today with regards to the lifeguard towers. And I understand the frustration with spending $212,000 on a lifeguard tower, but I did a little bit more research. And there's a couple of things that people do not understand. The $212,000 per lighthouse tower, only 91,000 of that is for the actual construction. There are other fees associated. There's also other work to that goes into whether it's demolishing the new ones or the old ones, bonds, permit fees, insurance. So there are a lot of things that are included in that $212,000. It's not just $10,000 worth of wood. These items are also on our beach, so they have to be very, highly rated with regards to storms and storm surge. So that's why they're so expensive. The city put out a bid, and there were 5 different companies that actually submitted proposals for the construction of these items. And the range went from 211,000 apiece to 313,000 apiece. So unfortunately, it is the cost of putting these items on our beach. The current ones we have are old, they're dilapidated, and our first responders, in this instance, the lifeguards, do need a place that is upgraded. And we approved this item probably a year ago, maybe even longer. And as the mayor said, there's a lot of backup. Individuals who have challenges or questions are more than welcome to do a public records request. I believe the gentleman who is here today actually I forwarded that to the city manager, or it may have been the gentleman that I met over the weekend. It was the gentleman that I met over the weekend who also did a public records request. And so that was forwarded to the city manager. And again, this is all public knowledge. Speaking of public knowledge, House Bill 714, which is the Senate's short-term rental bill, was on the House floor today and was considered. And there was an amendment that was filed. And what this amendment is going to do is the proposed bills will further limit local government's ability to regulate vacation rentals and place responsibility with the state agency. So again, the state is looking to take our authority out of helping our neighborhoods. It's going to take away the city's ability to inspect these vacation rentals under Florida Building Code as well as the Fire Prevention Code. It's going to take away our government's right to deny or withdraw a vacation rental on the basis of unpaid code enforcement liens. All of that is going to be deferred to this state department. As your representative, I demand legislation preserving the city's home rule authority and granting local governments authority to regulate vacation rentals in a manner that addresses the impact on traditional residential neighborhoods. I've expressed this while in Tallahassee to our state representatives, and I've on numerous occasions urged our residents to speak up and contact our state representatives. They're the ones that have the ability to give this authority back to our cities so that we can protect our neighborhoods. So I'm asking the public to please reach out to our state representatives. Let them know what these vacation rentals are doing to our neighborhoods. I've got one to the south of me and I've got two behind me, and I get calls all the time of these vacation rentals popping up in our neighborhoods. And they are a big challenge to all coastal cities, but especially ours here. So please help us help you by reaching out to your state representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. District 2.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Whitehorn, what is the name of the firefighter that's in the hospital? Eric Delata? Lieutenant Eric Delata.
Eric Delata.
Excuse me?
Lieutenant Eric Delata.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask everyone to say a prayer for him. He's in the hospital in a very serious condition. And he's one of our fire rescue lieutenants. So please say a prayer for him and his family. It would be greatly appreciated. I went over to Johnny McKeithen Park today, and we've heard Ms. Bracy come time and time again to voice her complaints, and we're not going to ignore what she's saying. There has to be some sort of a solution. And I'm going to ask staff to find it, because she should not be looking out of her door and watching people go to the bathroom. That is unacceptable. And it's not going to keep happening. I went over there and I saw things today myself. Okay, so the park we can make the park better. We can change it. But if we're not changing it for the better, that people who live in the community have to witness certain stuff like that, then it's not for the better. And so if the fence need to go up, whatever it is, because she shouldn't be subject to that, neither should any of the neighbors. It's ridiculous. And believe me, it's going on. And so I don't even know why they have the gate there. You can walk in the park and it's just a gate that locks and that you just walk around the gate. But why that gate is there, I have no idea. But the fact of the matter is there are things that are undesirable that is occurring at that park. So I'm asking staff to figure out if we have to put a fence back up, then I'm going to be in favor of putting it up, because she shouldn't have to deal with that. Neither should any of the other neighbors. That's absolutely ridiculous. And the filth is over there because I see it. I went there today myself. And it's not going to continue. So it needs to be fixed. She comes every commission meeting and she's asking for our help. And it's our job. We were talking a little bit ago about being an advocate on part of the residents. But when residents have very common, needs, and they're asking for help, then we need to be an advocate for that as well. And so let's help Ms. Bracy. And I'll be looking at that. The other thing is that we had the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting last night, and it went really well. There are some ideas that will probably be coming forth about that. And I have some ideas that I would like to share with my colleagues as some other items develop associated with AHAC. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
There's two ways to go. And it's up to you. We can't stop the governor and the legislature from saying, sorry, we think it's more important that these ruffians take over a house and 40 people sleep in it. You can't do anything about it because we've decided you have no control over your city. We're going to tell you what to do. Why do we keep electing such people? If you live near one of these and it's driving you nuts, find out how your representative voted. If you don't like the idea of no permit for concealed weapons, anybody can carry a gun anywhere they want, do something about it. If you don't care, if you cut somebody off at the supermarket, he might pull a gun and shoot 8 or 9 people. Okay, do nothing. But it's going to happen here. It's happening all over the country. And only you can do something about it if you care about that issue. 6-week abortion, many women don't even know they're pregnant. Too bad. Have the baby. Never mind, we don't take care of them after they're born, but that's our decision. You have nothing to say about it. Yes, you do. It's called voting. Voting. If you're against something, find out how your representative stands and vote with them or against them. But doing nothing doesn't solve a single problem. We can pass all the ordinances in the world. And then the state comes down and says, no, you can't. State rule. You can't do anything about R&Bs. Too bad. We think it's good for Florida, so the heck with your city and how you feel about being annoyed at 4 o'clock in the morning with 6 drunken college kids in one room next door. But you can do something. Vote. If you know anybody that's not registered, every Friday morning in about a week, there's going to be voter registration right here in the lobby of City Hall. It's nonpartisan. Nobody's going to ask you what party you want to belong to. But if you need your registration checked, or you vote by mail and need to fill out the forms will be available between 9 and 12, starting a week from this Friday. I've instituted, because I believed since I'm a little boy and my parents drilled it into my head, voting is the most important right you have. If you ignore it, too bad. Take what they give you. But you have a chance and a right to have a side, whatever it is. But when less than 50% of the voters come out to vote in any election, that are eligible. It upsets me. Because people are saying, I'd rather watch Law and Order than go and vote. And then they cry. What do you mean? I didn't register. I want to vote this time. So it's up to you. Spread the word. Register, vote, whatever your opinion is. I'm not talking politics now. I'm talking rights. Your right to your opinion on every item that's on a ballot. That's what voting's all about. Your right to vote, your right to your opinion. Please take advantage of that. That's all I have.
Thank you. District 4?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by thanking Commissioner Hudak for giving us and this is serious, the refresher on the lifeguard towers, for doing the research again and bringing that information to us. We had a very robust discussion when those issues came up. And while it seems like an eye-popping number, it shouldn't, because we had a very lengthy discussion about it and we went into detail as to what went into those numbers. So if you'd actually taken the time to look into it and research it, the answers are there. And so I always encourage the public to participate and be a part of government. I wish we had more people. I wish this chamber were packed at every meeting. The fact that it's not, I take it as a badge of honor that we're doing a good job up here, that the public trusts what we're doing to represent them. If we were doing something wrong, then this would be packed every night, but it's not. And I think that's because we're doing a good job and the public trusts us to spend their money wisely. And that's why we debate the items that we do, and we have the discussion like we did earlier tonight on the pay and class study. That's why we have those discussions before we get here. So I encourage the public to come to every meeting, be it the city commission meeting, be it our workshops, be it the CRA. But please be informed when you do. You can throw stones at us. I mean, we're called every name in the book and then some, and I've had it and I've seen it online. And at this point, I mean, it's all old hat, and that's what, and we're used to those stones and arrows being thrown at us. But if you're going to come to that microphone, please be educated in what you say. Let's have a dialogue and a debate on the merits of the issues. Don't throw aspersions at us that have no meaning, because that's not going to promote or help your cause. If you have something valuable to bring, we want to hear it. We want to debate it. Maybe you thought of something that we haven't, but let's have a dialogue on the issues and the merits and not on name calling. This Saturday, May 6th, is my Saturday office hours from here at City Hall from 10 until noon. You can contact either myself or the city manager's office. That's for people that, like me, have day jobs and want to meet on the weekends and discuss issues. I'm always available, after hours, weekends, emails, text messages, whatever, but this is for those opportunities where the individuals just work and can't during the weekdays. That's this Saturday from May 6th. Before our next commission meeting will be Sunday, May 14, which is Mother's Day. So I'd like to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day for the great job that you do raising people just like me. That's all. Thank you.
Can I object?
I want to echo the sentiments in talking about the lifeguard towers. Just a reminder that we waited on that because we didn't like the price the first time we tried to do it, and we waited and the price went up. There's only certain times you can kick the can down the road before the costs go up. This isn't like, let's put on a show and I'll grab a flashlight and we'll set up something in my garage and you think you're going to get a Broadway play. It doesn't work that way. You can't go to Home Depot and grab lumber off the shelf and think you're going to build something that stood up to every single hurricane that we've seen come this way. We've watched the end of our pier explode, but I haven't seen a tower go down yet. But if they stay in the condition they are, they're going to start going down. You're part of the coastal construction line. You guys know how hard it is to get approval from a government agency to go ahead and allow us to build there? It's simply not that simple. I appreciate the comments, my colleagues, because it's accurate. I hope when the gentleman calls the governor to have us all arrested for a white collar crime, that he makes sure he reminds the governor that we need to have better laws to help us control the rental communities that Commissioner Hudak talked about. So I appreciate your comments on that. Here's the interesting thing. We talk about your voice mattering. This is one time that I'm telling you right now, you have more power than the city commission does, or any city commission does. The reason's real simple. They will punish us if we pass even a proclamation saying we disagree with something. That is the temperament that's going on in Tallahassee. And it's not necessarily by your individual representatives, because I've talked to them on both sides of the aisle. It's just the mentality that's up there now. So you as individuals carry more weight than we do as a collective group up here to pass something. And you won't be punished. We will, which punishes all of you. So I encourage you to get the word out. I'm also going to sound the warning sign that we have the big giant mass of seaweed that's continuing to grow in the Caribbean and will be swamping us. Keep in mind, when that hits Deerfield, we're going to have all sorts of complaints because it's going to hit all over. It's not as simple as us getting out there and raking as fast as we can. With turtle nests and all the different issues that are there, it's not that simple. And the size of this that is coming our way, it's a 5,000-mile long seaweed swamp. 5,000 miles.
It's twice the size of the US.
Yes. So it's going to come and it's going to come. And when it hits our beaches, it's going to smell like the worst rotten eggs you've ever smelled as it starts to decay. So Chad and crew are going to be out there doing everything they can, but they know it's coming. We're trying to steer it just towards Hillsborough, but we're not allowed to do that apparently. But it's not going to be an easy task. So I just want to make sure we have that happen. I went over to Johnny McKeithen Park again today before I came here. I didn't see the same things you did. I saw a lot of people there, but I didn't see all the same commotion. I do agree that if you have that issue there, if you have a transient population over there and you have that issue, fencing probably does need to be put up there. It's going to prevent that from going in there. It's not going to be, and I hope you're not asking for fencing that would prevent the view into the park. That's not going to stop you from seeing people doing things they shouldn't be doing behind a tree, but it will prevent people from going in there at the hours they shouldn't be. And I hope that is something that we look at. It's a shame because we have a lot of different parks and communities that we don't necessarily have that problem. We don't have that same fortification, but I think this area does it. But I think there's a way we can do it to make it look good as well and not just slap up a chain link fence. So let's put our minds together and see what we can do. And if you need another ride or an escort back over to your house tonight, you let me know, man. I want to praise our city clerk and her staff for an outstanding job that they've been doing for us. I can tell you, I see how fast the minutes are coming out. I see some of the coordination that is going on. City manager, city clerk, don't let her know it, but her and her staff are doing a phenomenal job. I just want to thank them for that. We had another motorcycle fatality here in Deerfield Beach over the weekend, last week. It seems to be every meeting I come in here and talk about another motorcycle fatality. It is a hard task for BSO to do what they can to try to regulate it. I see it. I work from home and my vantage point is Hillsborough Boulevard. I see what is going on and it's out of control. And it's a big challenge for BSO because you can't chase them because it makes it even more of a dangerous situation. But we need to come up with something to kind of control this. Another life was lost, excessive speed on a motorcycle on power line. And it's happening too frequently. And if they want to kill themselves, tell them to drive into a wall. But my fear is they're going to start driving into other people. And for the people that have been involved with the accidents with them, that's a horrible situation to be in. We had a motorcyclist that was killed the week before this on Hillsborough, and the young woman, 20-something years old, who hit him, who doesn't appear to have been at fault, had to perform CPR on somebody who expired on the scene. And that's just that is a trauma that is far reaching, and they're not going to forget that. So whatever we can do to try to curb the speed, I know we're working on it, but let's continue to do that. While I was going by Johnny McKeithen Park on Deerfield Avenue over here, there's an abandoned house that's there. And there's an abandoned car that's there. It's actually got a car cover on it. But the house I know it's abandoned because one, you can look at it, it's very clearly abandoned. But it also has a broken meter box on the side, so a non-functioning meter box. That tells me this is a completely abandoned property. If we could look, make sure we have staff look into that and see what we can do about taking care of that. I also hope during our budget, I just want to remind everyone during our budget workshops and stuff that we take a very close look on what we're doing with our code enforcement and our building department to make sure that we are still following a business model that works for the city. I'm not happy with what's happening with code enforcement right now. Of course, I've never been happy with what code enforcement does. It's either too strong or it's too lenient. And right now, I just think it's not enough of any either right now. So I'm a little frustrated with that. So I hope we have some reconsiderations for that when we get into our budget workshops. Last meeting, we talked about naming our Public Works building after Bernard Adams, which I think is something I completely support. And I think it's a very good idea. I would like to in talking with some people around town, and I don't mean to embarrass her because she's here in the room tonight, but we have our pool over at the middle school. If it wasn't for that, for this individual, that pool would not exist. And that's former Mayor Peggy Nolan, former Commissioner Nolan. Sorry to embarrass you, Peggy, but I would like to see that pool be named after her. I know it's not going to be easy because it is school board property as well. So whatever we need to do to kind of look into that. And before we have a run on naming things, like I said before, I've changed my position on naming things after people until after they're passed away. I don't think that's a good way to, it's a nice thing to do, but I think it's more important for us to praise people while they're still living, to be able to see that for their hard work that they've done in the community. I would like to see us come up with a policy that we don't just kind of bring these up like I've just done. But and I encourage us to move this one forward, but I'd like to have us come up with a policy where we have these things up for consideration, where they can be reviewed and vetted and looked at. And I've done I've done plenty of historical research on this one. So I feel very confident in this. I know that without Peggy Nolan, we would not have a pool there. So thank you for that, Peggy. I wish you'd clean it more often though, for us, Peggy. But I will say that I would like for us to come up with a policy. So if we want to move any of these things forward in the future, that we have a set policy how we do it, if that's all right. Okay. I believe that's all I have. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. And thank you, gentlemen, for all the work tonight. Appreciate it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.